Hi again, folks. It's Rick from the Boondocking Bears, and it's day 4 of the 2018 Prius sort of camping road trip on the Back Roads America tour. Today, it's to Savannah, Georgia, touring out that historic city with a couple of really interesting stops along the way and some little bear hijinks, of course. So, it was another great day. Let's check it out right now. Before setting off to Savannah, Little Bear met his new best friend, a pit bull named Lucy. They loved each other. Then it was just a short 12-mile drive to our first stop. So our first stop headed to Savannah wasn't far from Charleston on John's Island at the 500-year-old Angel Oak Tree. I'd heard about this amazing tree and wanted to check it out. Now, Angel Oak is obviously an oak tree estimated to be 500 years old and long reputed as the oldest tree east of the Mississippi. But that claim is suspect. Many cypress trees in the South are considered older, with one in North Carolina estimated at 1,600 years old. Now, you'd be excused thinking Angel Oak's name derives from a rich mythology of its history, but in fact it's just named after the old landowner named Justice Angel. However, local folklore tells stories of ghosts of former slaves appearing as angels around the tree, so maybe there is more to the name than we think. Certainly, the setting for the stories is eerily conducive. What struck me in walking around Angel Oak was a sense of being in the presence of royalty. Its magnificence is really stunning. There's a peace and calm when in its presence. You could feel it. Even Little Bear was subdued walking about, though maybe dogs are more intuitive than us, less intimidated because before long, Bear had to mark his territory and peed on it. So visiting Angel Oak was well worth the side trip and a great start to the day. Now it was off to another spooky side trip before hitting Savannah, and this one even got to Little Bear. So an hour south of Angel Oak and halfway to our destination of Savannah was another cool spot I wanted to visit, the old Sheldon Church ruins. This National Historic Landmark has quite a history, and as Little Bear and I can attest, visiting it alone as we did, it is both enchanting and beautiful, and not just a little bit spooky. Church ruins surrounded by moss-draped trees and ancient gravestones tend to be that way. First known as the Church of Prince William's Parish, it was built in the mid-1700s. Best guess from historical records it's somewhere between 1746 and 1753. It is said to be America's first attempt to build in the Greek temple style. After a turbulent history, what remains are the pillars and 3.5-foot walls of the church surrounded by ancient gravestones. That the walls and pillars remain after over 260 years is a testament to the builder's skill. The church was originally built and funded by the adjacent plantation owner, a slave owner named William Bull, who named it Sheldon after his ancestral home in England. Soon, however, the Revolutionary War broke out, and in 1779, General Augustin Prevost's British troops burned the church, destroying all but the walls and pillars. It remained in ruins until 1825 when it was rebuilt. But that wasn't the end of the story, as the church followed the path of American history. The Civil War had broken out, and the church was largely protected by its location deep in Confederate South Carolina. But by 1865, the war was entering its death throes, and William Tecumseh Sherman had begun his march to the sea across Georgia. On January 14, 1865, the church was burned again, this time by federal troops hell-bent on burning everything in its way under Sherman's total war doctrine. So that's the story of how the ruins came to be today. But is it the truth, or is it perhaps a contrived Southern legend propagated by defeated and defiant Confederate veterans in the post-war rush to blame everything evil on the North? Did Sherman's army really burn the church in 1865? That is what the roadside historical marker says and is recorded in the National Landmarks database. Well, it seems Sherman had an indirect hand in the church's fate, but not as history records. A letter discovered and published by the University of South Carolina Press titled, quote, "The Leverett Letters," unquote, includes a letter written on February 3, 1866 by Milton Leverett on the state of the church after the war. He wrote, quote, "Sheldon Church not burnt, just tore up and can be repaired," unquote. Apparently the inside was ransacked and gutted by whites and blacks to get material to rebuild their homes burnt by Sherman's army. So there you go. Interesting place. A bit spooky, but well worth the visit. Now it's off to Savannah. Wow. Holy mackerel, wow. This just became my favorite city. What a gorgeous place. The history, architecture, southern charm, friendly people, restaurants, the city squares all shaded by old trees draped in Spanish moss. Simply stunning. And if that isn't enough to top it off, for the first 20 years from the city's founding in 1733, lawyers were banned. No lawyers allowed. And I'm not sure if it gets any better than that. So Savannah, how to explain it? So much to show and where to start. I only wish I had allotted more than just a day to see it. It ticked pretty near all my boxes. So let's start with the glamour part. Life is like a box of chocolates. There are few more iconic movie quotes than Tom Hanks' famous scene from Forrest Gump. The scene was filmed in Savannah's Chippewa Square, so Little Bear and I headed there first. I really had no choice. Little Bear thinks he's a Hollywood A-lister, so insisted. And just a small walk away was the Mercer Williams house, known best for the movie Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil with Kevin Spacey, John Cusack, and directed by Clint Eastwood. So Bear and I retraced the walk shown in the movie because Little Bear is starstruck. A great movie if you haven't seen it, by the way. So Bear and I explored many of the squares enthralled by the gorgeous architecture and famous historic houses. Founded in 1733 by James Oglethorpe and 120 fellow settlers, he claimed the land and named it Georgia, after King George II, and it became the last of the original 13 colonies. The city's premier private club today bears his name, and Little Bear felt quite at home waiting by the door to be admitted. The city was also an early Christmas present for President Lincoln, presented by William Tecumseh Sherman after completing his march to the sea. The founder's birthplace home of the Girl Scouts of America is now a museum in her honor here, and ironically considered one of the most haunted homes in the city, a city with a rich history of spooky homes. Now, only 3 laws were enacted in the first quarter century of the city. The first being that Oglethorpe insisted that beer was okay, but brandy and rum were banned. Slavery was also banned. Oglethorpe feared that slaves would create an elite class among the white folk, and despite strong local opposition, the ban lasted until 1750. And lastly, the native Indians were to be respected. Oglethorpe had immense respect for the native Indians who treated him so well on his arrival. That respect was mutual and remains today. But let's face it, the banning of lawyers, though not codified, was still the best. So the history of Savannah traces from prenatal and the birth of America to today, a leading eastern seaport while maintaining its rich southern charm. One thing is certain, I will be back, but with more time to explore this amazing place. It was a long day, and I had one exhausted Little Bear when we got home. So as always, smile, enjoy, be charitable to all, and talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.